The training grounds of the Vrinthian military compound stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced steel and adaptive terrain matrices. It was a place designed to forge warriors from the fiercest species in the Galactic Coalition. Yet on this particular morning, the grounds lay silent except for the frustrated growls of Alpha Run. The Alpha stood nearly 3 meters tall, his obsidian fur bristling with barely contained irritation. His species, the Vrinthians, had produced some of the most decorated warriors in Coalition history. They were apex predators evolved on a world where only the strongest survived to see their second winter. And yet here he was, unable to command a simple training exercise from a group of cubs. 12 young Vrinthians sat in a semicircle near the obstacle course, their golden eyes fixed on everything except their commanding officer. Some groomed their claws. Others stared at the artificial sky projected above. One particularly bold cub had actually turned his back to Alpha Rune entirely. Formation. Rune's voice carried the deep resonance that had once sent enemy battalions fleeing. The cubs didn't even twitch. I said, "Formation." "Nothing." Lieutenant Mara Cade watched from the observation platform, her human frame seeming almost fragile compared to the massive Vrinthian Alpha pacing below. She'd been assigned to the compound 3 months ago as a cross-species training consultant, though most of the Coalition officers viewed her role as little more than ceremonial. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, their military traditions barely a century old compared to the millennia-long warrior cultures of species like the Vrinthians. But Mara had noticed something in her time here, something the others had missed. Alpha Run climbed the stairs to the platform, each footfall heavy with frustration. His translator implant rendered his growls into crisp galactic standard. "They refuse. 3 days now. They complete every exercise for the other instructors, but not for me. It makes no sense. I am Alpha. They should obey instinctively." Mara studied the cubs below. They weren't playing or fighting among themselves. They were simply waiting. "Permission to try something, Alpha?" Ron's ears flattened against his skull, a gesture of skepticism among his kind. The human wishes to command Vrinthian cubs? They wouldn't even acknowledge the beta instructors yesterday. "I don't want to command them," Mara said quietly. "I just want to talk to them." The Alpha's massive hand waved dismissively toward the stairs. His expression made his thoughts clear. Go ahead and fail like everyone else. Mara descended to the training grounds, her boots barely making a sound on the reinforced deck. The cubs' ears swiveled toward her immediately, though they didn't turn their heads. She walked to the center of their semicircle and sat down cross-legged on the cold floor. For a long moment she said nothing. She simply sat, hands resting on her knees, breathing steadily. Above them, Alpha Rune leaned against the platform railing, watching with narrowed eyes. Finally Mara spoke. Her voice was calm, conversational, carrying none of the command structure formality the cubs had been subjected to for days. "My name is Mara. I'm from a planet called Earth, which most of you probably think is some backwater rock that barely deserves Coalition membership." One cub's ear twitched. Another's tail flicked once. "You're probably right," Mara continued. "We don't have your fangs or your strength. Most species could tear us apart without much effort. But we survived anyway. You want to know how?" Now several cubs had turned their heads slightly toward her. The boldest one, who had kept his back to Alpha Run, shifted to face her fully. "We learned to listen before we learned to hunt. We learned to understand the prey before we learned to chase it. And most importantly, we learned that the strongest pack isn't the one with the biggest alpha. It's the one where everyone knows why they fight." She paused, letting the words settle. "Alpha Run up there? He's strong. Probably stronger than anything you'll face in the next 5 years. But strength isn't why you should train. You should train because one day, someone you care about will need you to be ready. Training isn't about proving you can take orders. It's about proving you can protect your pack when it matters." The cub who had turned his back to Rune stood slowly. He was large for his age, with scars already marking his muzzle. "The Alpha doesn't understand this." "The Alpha understands strength," Mara said. "But understanding strength and understanding warriors are different things. You're not refusing his orders because you're weak or disrespectful. You're refusing because you don't know what you're training for. Am I right?" The scarred cub's tail lowered, a gesture of acknowledgement. "We complete the exercises for the other instructors because they have fought. They have scars. They have stories. The Alpha only has rank. Above them, Rune's claws dug into the railing hard enough to leave grooves in the metal. Mara nodded slowly. Then maybe the Alpha needs to share his stories. Maybe you need to know why his rank was earned, not just that it exists. She stood, dusting off her uniform. But first you need to decide something. Are you going to be cubs forever, waiting for someone to give you a reason? Or are you going to be warriors who find their own purpose? She walked toward the obstacle course, not looking back. The course record is held by a Vrinthian named Kelrath. Completed it in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Alpha Run beat that record when he was a cub. 3 minutes and 58 seconds. She stopped at the starting line. I wonder if any of you could beat his time. The scarred cub stood. Then another. Then all 12 were on their feet, moving toward the course with the fluid grace of born predators. Alpha Run descended from the platform, his massive frame surprisingly quiet. He stopped beside Mara, watching as the cubs arranged themselves at the starting line without being told. 3 minutes and 58 seconds, he rumbled. I had forgotten. I was so focused on commanding them that I forgot to give them something to chase. They don't need commands, Mara said. They need purpose. Give them that, and they'll follow you to the edge of the galaxy. The Alpha's translator remained silent for a moment before he spoke again. The human understands warrior hearts better than most warriors. We've had a lot of practice, Mara replied. We've been the underdogs for our entire history. Rune stepped forward, his voice carrying across the training grounds without the harshness of before. Cubs! I was your age when I set that record. I ran that course thinking of the packmates I'd lost to raiders the year before. I ran it angry, desperate, and alone. You have something I didn't have then. You have each other. Show me what a true pack can do. 12 pairs of golden eyes locked onto the Alpha. The scarred cub's tail rose high, a challenge accepted. When the exercise timer began, the cubs moved as one organism, covering the course with a coordination that made even the veteran instructors stop and watch. They finished in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Alpha Run stood beside Lieutenant Mara Cade, watching the cubs celebrate their victory with howls that echoed across the compound. For the first time in days, his stance relaxed. The cubs declined to train until the human spoke, he said quietly. Even I stopped asking. I should have been listening instead. Mara smiled. That's the thing about earning respect. Alpha. Sometimes the smallest voice carries the most weight. Above them, the artificial sky brightened toward afternoon, and the training grounds filled with the sound of warriors being born, not through force, but through understanding. And somewhere in the Coalition archives, a small note was added to Lieutenant Mara Cade's file, recommended for advanced cross-species tactical instruction. Shows exceptional ability to bridge cultural and biological divides, human intuition proving valuable asset. The cubs trained every day after that, and they always listened when the human spoke.